Tonight on InnerSPACE,
There's thousands of them.
how will Team Magnus survive this season finale?
It's an invasion.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to InnerSPACE. What a high-stakes season finale of Sanctuary we just witnessed.
Indeed, the writers have outdone themselves this time. I don't know how the teams are going to get out of this one, though I do have some ideas, and that is exactly what we'll be talking about tonight on InnerSPACE.
Plus, we'll hear from Sanctuary executive producer and creator Damian Kindler about what to expect from Season 4. But first, everything was on the line for Magnus, the Sanctuary, and the planet as she decided to take a trip down the rabbit hole.
Don't blame me for the dream. No?
Hell, I can't.
May I just say, it looks like we got to find Doc and head to the Twin Pines Mall because we're going back to the future.
Gotta go back in time, back in Helen. We gotta get back. It's a trap. Oh, that's a different one.
That's a totally different franchise.
Let's talk, though, before we get into all the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. Is John Druitt dead? We didn't see him die, but he obviously was electrocuted, and then there was that huge explosion, so is he dead?
Unless he managed to get up and follow Magnus through, I think he is dead in this timeline. But, of course, with this new rip in the time continuum, there is huge potential for Druitt to be brought back into our timeline if the events in this, previous timeline are all managed and there is no time paradox created, though I think that is likely what will happen.
I think there will be a time paradox. One of the things I love about Sanctuary is waiting for Druitt to pop up again. He always pops up a few times a season.
Oh, and other characters like Tesla as well.
Sure. Well, that's a very good point. Now you've got Helen. There's that great final shot of her back in the late 1800s, and I think it begs the question. Because you know who she's going to get to help her out? Tesla and Watson, I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah, she's going to have plenty of allies, perhaps even herself. There will be two Helens, one timeline, and I think that's a great duo.
Two Helens, one timeline. You can't go back, though, on your own timeline, can you? I disagree.
Not?
I don't think we're going to see that. I think part of her mandate there is going to be to not run into herself. Well, and I personally hope that they set part of the whole next season back in the late 1800s and jump back and forth between our timeline, present day, and her timeline there. Ooh. But then I hope she takes actions that eradicate this timeline, because in this timeline, everything is about to hit the fan. The Earth is about to go into a war with Hollow Earth Abnormal.
There's no way we can eradicate this timeline entirely. Perhaps you can eradicate the last maybe month or two, perhaps to prior when Praxis was destroyed and the damage that Adam Worth has done. But do you really want to eradicate all the wonderful stories that we've got to experience with these characters, Will, Henry, and Kate?
Come on, don't set it up like I'm against
this man, what he is saying. I don't want any of that eradicated. I want that in my canon for sure.
Listen, I said off the top that it was an epic high-stakes finale, and what I mean by that is I don't know if the stakes that they've set, this war that's going to happen on Earth, these Calandra things exploding, I probably mispronounced it. Calderas maybe exploding. I don't think they can go back to that. I think the only option that they're going to have is to reset the timeline, and that brings up another question. If that happens, Druitt, through his actions, will have basically saved the planet. Could Helen ever forgive Druitt if we see him again?
I don't think she can forgive the Druitt in our timeline. He is, after all, Jack the Ripper. He's made all these terrible decisions that have led to all of this. But if she brings an earlier Druitt to this timeline, maybe just before the events in Praxis, maybe there will be some forgiveness there, and perhaps they can work out together.
I hope they do, because there's that scene of them walking down the hall arguing.
I did feel for Druitt in this.
I felt for him. Forgive the guy, even though he's Jack the Ripper. That sounds awful. Well, while we were forced to ponder the far-reaching ramifications of Adam Worth's actions, the urgency of the episode was ramped up when it became clear the Sanctuary may need to arm themselves for a full-fledged war against an army of abnormals on the march.
There. Can you zoom in? There's thousands of them. It's an invasion.
This is what I was talking about, these high stakes. They got to correct the timeline, because it doesn't look like they're coming back from that And on top of that, Praxis is destroyed, and I don't think they're done with Praxis as a city, as a potential plot point. That's why they're going to reset the timeline.
I agree that it would be good to go back somewhat so that we can get Praxis back. But again, I don't want to go back over this rich history that we've developed with these characters.
All right, let's leave that.
I agree. We've got a big problem on our hands. You see how many abnormals there are there. I think the world is about to find out about their existence. This can't be kept under wraps.
I thought it was a really interesting conversation, too, between Henry and Helen, and Henry saying, no, let's tell everybody. But then did you catch Helen in that conversation saying,
oh, I know.
Already tried it once at the end of the 1940s, and she seemed to imply that it didn't go so well. And I was wondering, the Sanctuary crew are so so they often parallel real historical events.
Sure.
I'm wondering if they actually paralleled it with some sort of paranormal-esque event that happened back then, or, you know, something that people claimed was paranormal. Let's leave that, though, and let's talk about the camp, because that was the other big plot line.
Yeah.
So was all of the intra-camp tension simply a ruse to distract the Sanctuary and the UN from what was happening on the ground?
I think that was the case throughout the episode. In my notes, I was saying, this reeks of something fishy here. I think this is Adam Worth.
I did not call it.
Trying to throw us off of his trail. I think he organized both things. I don't know, though, about the, you know, overthrowing the coup within the tent community there. With,
so you don't think Thilo is aligned with Adam Worth and this plan to bring all these abnormals up?
I think maybe Fallon was ultimately, or was just like a pawn in his game. I'm not sure.
You know who I think is aligned with Adam Worth?
Who?
Garrus, the guy we're supposed to think is the good guy. There he is. No, I think they're going to do a bait and switch. I think Thilo is a big thug. I think he's also got some legitimate concerns about how they're being treated by the human population. Obviously, a lot of parallels to refugee camps in this episode.
Sure.
I think Garrus is actually a bad guy, man.
I don't know about that. I think Thilo is the bad guy here. I think Garrus will ultimately come back with Kate, because we didn't see them at the end of the episode. They will rescue Biggie, set things right in the camp, ultimately, when the timelines merge somehow.
We're going to find out next season Garrus is a bad guy, bet. And by the way, it was too bad that Bigfoot couldn't kick Thilo's butt there.
Yeah, well, it is the Edge, the wrestler. So I think ultimately
that's true.
he would win. One of my favorite wrestlers, by the way.
I didn't even call him there.
Well, anyway, it is tough to speculate exactly where the show will be going, because it is Sanctuary after all. But we did corner executive producer Damian Kindler anyway, and here's what he had to say about Season 4.
I can tell you nothing about Season 4. As usual, we have painted ourselves into a ridiculous corner. As though the giant spider with the tidal wave was bad enough, the exploding mountains in Chile with the, you know, monsters coming up to take over the earth, and John Druitt consumed by fire, and, you know, Helen Magnus trapped in the past. We'll sort it out. We have some ideas.
I'm sure you do, Damian. I'm sure you do. Perhaps it has something to do with an abnormal named Ajay. Just saying.
Oh, like a
normal
pet?
Yeah.
Don't ruin this series with your pet talk
fluffy.
as well. Leave it. I do like how they always back themselves into corners, because they're smart enough to write themselves out of them, and that's challenging TV making. I think it's great. Well, we received some great feedback from you on where you'd like to see the story of Team Magnus go next season. Here's what you had to say. Caitlin wrote, Will is relieved of Abby, and Henry finds his family. Oh, I like Abby. I don't want to see her go.
Yeah, I'd like to see Henry's family, though. Sharon said it would be great if Ashley somehow returned. Oh, or maybe Dr. Watson could be revived.
Ashley in flashbacks last week.
True.
Bob wrote, I'm thinking we'll find out that the secret Nazi program dealing with abnormals will be revealed to still be in operation.
Interesting idea. Kate said Tesla will join the team full-time so we can see him each and every week. That would be fun indeed.
People love Tesla. Jenny wrote, well, I sure as heck would like to be part of Team Magnus, but suspect the chances of that are slim to none, so I'll be happy with whatever they do and wherever the story takes them and us. Hey, if they reset the timeline, Jenny, maybe you could make friends with Magnus and Will if this were actually Sanctuary in real life and then become part of it.
Tell you what, Teddy, I'll let the whole pet thing go if you let the whole resetting the timeline thing go.
Deal. That's our deal for next season.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much for writing in, everyone. Please continue to post your comments on our blog at spacecast.com.
Or drop us a tweet, would you? Twitter.com/Space Channel.
Post on our Facebook fan page.
Or old-fashioned email, InnerSPACE@spacecast.com.
And you can catch this episode of Sanctuary at spacecast.com beginning tomorrow if you'd like to watch it again.